All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're grabbing a classic novel off the shelf, blowing off the dust, and looking at what it really is, an absolute masterpiece of horror. We are talking about Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, a story that is, believe me, just as chilling today as it was over 100 years ago. It's time to uncover the darkness that's just lurking right beneath its beautiful surface. No, seriously, think about that for a second. What if you took the perfect picture, a selfie? And from that moment on, you just stopped aging. You'd stay young and beautiful forever. But that picture you posted, it starts to change. It takes on the weight of every bad decision, every cruel thing you say, every single one of your dirty little secrets. It gets older, it gets twisted, it becomes a monster. Well, that's the terrifying deal at the very heart of this story. You know, when you hear the word Gothic, your mind probably jumps to crumbling castles, misty forests, maybe some ghosts floating around. Well, Oscar Wilde basically took that entire rulebook and just tossed it out the window. He dragged the horror out of those remote, spooky places and dropped it right into the middle of modern London. He hid it in plain sight behind the fancy doors of high society and deep in the shadows of its grimiest alleys. And this is the real game changer. The terror in Dorian Gray isn't something you can see or run from. It's not some monster chasing you down a hall. The real haunted house, the true Gothic landscape, is Dorian's own mind. The horror is what happens inside a person when they decide that morality just doesn't apply to them anymore. So you might be asking, how do you even show that kind of internal horror? Well, that's where the supernatural centerpiece of the novel comes in, the portrait. See, this isn't just paint on a canvas. Oh no, it's a magical, cursed object that becomes a living, breathing, and terrifyingly accurate record of Dorian's soul. And this contrast is what drives the entire story. On one hand, you've got Dorian himself. He's forever young, ridiculously charming, just the perfect guy on the surface. But then you have the portrait. It acts as his dark double, his doppelganger, and it soaks up all the ugliness he creates inside. Dorian is the beautiful mask. The painting is the horrifying truth hiding behind it. This line just nails it. It perfectly captures Wilde's genius. He takes something that we think of as representing beauty and truth, a work of art, and he completely twists it into the very source of the terror. The thing that should bring people joy becomes this monstrous, hidden conscience that Dorian is chained to. There's just no escape. This brings us to the man himself. Who is Dorian Gray really? Is he just a victim, a good person corrupted by a bad influence? Or is he a true monster, someone who's completely responsible for his own descent into evil? Wilde creates this classic Gothic villain hero, a character whose charm and beauty make his depravity that much more chilling. And this gets us to a really key idea, psychological Gothic. This is where the novel's real terror is born. This isn't about jump scares or things that go bump in the night. It's about that slow, creeping dread of a person being absolutely tormented by their own actions, their own guilt, and their own spiraling paranoia. Right. The magic painting might be the thing that kicks it all off, but the real haunting is what's happening inside Dorian's head. He becomes obsessed, absolutely terrified that someone might see the portrait. He's paranoid his secret's going to get out. His own mind becomes his personal prison, his own private hell. So what does a life with zero consequences actually look like? Well, for Dorian, it starts small, with the casual cruelty of breaking an innocent person's heart. But from there, it just spirals. He learns to manipulate people, to emotionally destroy them just for the thrill of it, all while refusing to take any responsibility. He chases every forbidden pleasure, thinking he'll never have to pay the price. But that unchecked desire is the very thing that's making him rot from the inside out. But Dorian's corruption doesn't just stay locked away in a room with the painting. Oh no. It starts to leak out, to poison the world and the people around him. His inner decay actually starts to stain the physical world he moves through. This idea is called the urban Gothic, and at the time it was absolutely revolutionary. Wilde was tapping into this deep-seated fear that Victorians had, this anxiety that underneath the polished, civilized surface of a modern city, there was this hidden world of vice and decay just festering away. So he swaps the haunted castle for the filthy back alleys and secret opium dens of London. These places aren't just a backdrop, they're a direct reflection of Dorian's corrupted soul. And all the while, the painting is keeping a perfect, horrifying record. After his first truly cruel act, A nasty little sneer appears on the painting's lips. As his life becomes a tangled web of lies and secrets, wrinkles of hypocrisy literally carve themselves into the canvas. And then, after he commits murder, a hideous splatter of blood appears on the portrait's hands. It becomes this grotesque visual diary of his every sin. So, what this all boils down to is this. Dorian's physical beauty becomes a lie. It's a mask that he uses to hide the festering rot that's taken over his soul. The ugliness in the portrait isn't just about getting old, it's a visual representation of his morality turning completely monstrous. But here's the thing about deals with the devil. They can't last forever. The supernatural bargain that kept Dorian safe for so long, well, it eventually starts to crumble. The universe has a funny way of balancing its books, and the time finally comes for Dorian's massive debt to be paid. There's no quiet fading away for Dorian Gray. The moral laws that he's spent his entire adult life mocking and ignoring don't just creep back in, they crash down on him with brutal, shocking violence. His free ride is officially over. In one last desperate move, Dorian decides he has to destroy the only evidence of who he truly is, the painting. He grabs the same knife he used to murder his friend and he plunges it right into the canvas. But in stabbing the art, he stabs himself. The curse violently reverses in an instant. He withers into a hideous old man on the floor, his face finally showing the true state of his soul. And the portrait? It's restored to its original perfect beauty. And that's, right there, is the ultimate moral of this incredible Gothic story. You can try to hide your sins. You can run from your past. You can even make some crazy supernatural deal to avoid the consequences. But what you can never, ever do is escape your own soul. Your conscience will always find you. Which leaves us with one final, pretty haunting question for our time, doesn't it? In a world that is obsessed with curated online profiles, with filters that smooth over every flaw and avatars that present a perfect version of ourselves to the world, are we all just creating our own little portraits? And what happens when the bill for that kind of manufactured beauty finally comes due?